Broadcasting live from New York City, it's the J Word Podcast. The podcast that covers everything from millennial struggles to the iconic poppin' topics with your host, Jasawn Pryce.
What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Jasawn Pryce, and thank you for tuning in to the J Word Podcast. This hiatus has been way longer than expected. Like, so many things have been going on my end, from food poisoning to at one point to losing loved ones back to being exposed to COVID and actually catching it. Man, like when I tell you, life for me has been like a roller coaster, but God is good and we're here to tell the story. But, one thing I must say is, despite all the challenges and what seems to be like these endless hardships that, find their way in my life, I feel like I learned so much from these experiences. And at the end of the day, good or bad, it truly is an experience. And I think with everything that is transpired in that time period, I just kind of realized that, man, like life has its own plans, and sometimes we don't have control, but we never have control, really. Like, I like to think that everything that is for us, everything in this life is already written, and that it's just us, I know, aligning with the things that are already supposed to happen, like good and bad. Another thing I learned is timing. Timing is everything, and we really just have to try to let go and go with the flow and just realize that everything happens for a reason, as I said, good and bad. But, anyhow, welcome back to the J Word Podcast. And for those of you who's it's your first time, welcome to the show. I'm super excited for today's show. We are back with some poppin' topics. And later on, I'll be introducing our new segment called Ask J later in today's show. So I'm super excited about that. So today, we're talking about post-grad depression, a topic that is very real yet overlooked. I really feel that this conversation is so important because post-grad life is, it's an experience. It is something that is so real. Post-grad depression and that transitional phase is such a real thing, and a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't allow themselves to feel vulnerable enough to share their experience, or maybe don't realize that they're experiencing it. But today we're getting into all of that. And joining me in doing so is my friend. She is amazing. She's an actor, a master at impersonations. Man, when I tell you, she is literally made for SNL. She's going to create her own SNL one day, you guys. She's even impersonated the cast of SNL alongside stars like Viola Davis, Wendy Williams, and the list goes on. So welcome to the show, Tia Cassmira.
Hi, what an introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Course. Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you for wanting to be a part of this conversation. As I said, I really think that this is such a important discussion, and this conversation is something that I wish that I was able to locate prior to going to college, or maybe that first year, so I could know what to kind of expect. Everybody has a different experience. Everyone's life is, their own, and it's a unique, journey for everybody. But I feel like a lot of us, go through the same things.
It's tough. It really is. And also the added pressure of like your 20s are supposed to be, the most fun that you have in your life.
I gave up on the 20s.
Okay. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
20s, it's not it.
Yeah, it's not doing what it's supposed to do at all.
Right. It's not giving what it's supposed to get.
Yeah. At all. It's crazy.
It is.
Do you feel like you've experienced post-grad depression in your own way?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Even I would say even my last semester of school, I started getting anxiety, and I would actually leave class, go to the bathroom. Like sometimes I would have to call my mother, or I would just have an anxiety attack in the bathroom and come back. And I was like, okay, maybe I should, see somebody on campus about this just
Yeah.
so I can start preparing myself for post-grad life and try to prepare myself for like, things may not turn out the way I want it to be.
Right.
So, kind of looking for tools to help me navigate uh, life post graduation. And even then, even when I thought I was prepared and was okay, when graduating, I was so, so happy. I felt so free. Um, and then over time, you just realize that things aren't happening the way that I want it to happen. I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go on auditions, I'm gonna live my best life. I have a little part-time job. And things weren't happening as fast as I thought they were going to be. My expectations were definitely, I wouldn't say unrealistic, but they were high. And when I wasn't meeting my own expectations, right? Because it was pressure that I was putting on
Yeah.
myself.
Mm.
That's when I really started feeling like depressed and sad. Um, yeah, yep.
I could relate. Like it was such a my whole, I guess, senior year experience was it was exciting because I know in school you're prepping for just this moment, right? Where it's like, all
Mhm.
right, I've been doing my thing in my classes. I've been trying to get these good grades. I mastered, balancing, academics and personal life and all of that type of stuff. Or even if you haven't mastered it, you did enough to graduate and
Right,
you made it,
okay. Yes, absolutely.
So now you're at this period where it's like, all right, things are gonna come together. And now this is where things are really about to start. And for the people that aren't familiar with, I guess, the meaning of post-grad depression, it's how would you define it? I'm trying to,
I guess I would define it as like a period, like right after graduating of, like sadness or not knowing what's gonna happen. Definitely a period of just like learning, I guess, how the world
yeah,
works.
that and the uncertainty that lies in post-grad depression, um
Absolutely.
or I guess that defines it, not really having, I guess, that structure. And then just since you're not having that anymore because really you've been in school your whole life, so
Exactly. It's really your first time where
yeah.
it's not like, okay, I'm gonna, grad school is not in my plans, at least right now it's not. So it's the first period where you're like, okay, life, like this is life, this is adulthood. How do you navigate that? How do you, navigate being back at home, if you are back at home
Yeah.
as an adult? How do you navigate, your job and doing things you love to do versus doing things that you need to do?
Mm. It's like we had that 1 year of, after graduating, we're
Yeah.
figuring it out, we're piecing the pieces together, and
Right?
now there's a pandemic, and now things are just all over the place, and things are shaped in a way that they've never been before, like ever. So there was no direction before like graduating, but now there's really no direction.
Exactly, exactly. And the thing is, like, after graduating, you kind of have these expectations of how your life is supposed to be or how it's going to go. Or, for me, I definitely saw my path going a certain way. And when it wasn't going that way, when I wasn't seeing the things that I thought I would, or like getting the amount of auditions I thought I would, I was like, what am I doing wrong?
Mm,
Um, and it was like a real period of just sadness. And it all just didn't happen at once. It was like, over time, the add up, it just became a lot.
how did your, I guess, transition look like after college? So after that moment of freshly graduating to
Mhm.
you, I guess, adjusting back?
Yes. So after I graduated, well, technically I was finished with school in January of
Okay.
2019. So I remember I had a part-time job at a theater. So at least something was keeping me occupied. Um, and then really I just started going on meetings with different agents and stuff. Try to establish some sort of network. But other than that, I want to say really that was it. I was just really glad to be back home and
Yeah.
catching up on lots of sleep. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
immediately after you graduate, those first couple of weeks is like you're in a state of bliss because you did it and you're so proud
Yes.
of yourself. I was so proud of myself because it was a long 3.5 years.
It's a lot of
But
work.
okay, yes. But yeah, I feel like the first few weeks freshly being graduated, I was just in a period of transitioning to being back home and meeting up with my friends who I hadn't had the chance to see in a while. Um, and then as time progressed, I would say like came March and April, I didn't know, what to expect. I really gotten, I think, 3 jobs at that point.
Hmm.
I know by the end of the year, I had 4 jobs, which was a lot. I was just trying to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, came March, April, that's when I really was like, oh, like I have to put myself out there, and find auditions for myself and things like that because, my manager wasn't doing it at the time.
Hmm.
So I really just had to put trust in myself. And then my manager dropped me, which was like a really low point for me.
And not when
Um,
they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing.
exactly. I like
And
at that
then
point I was getting myself more auditions, for
that's
things than my
crazy.
manager was. And
Wow.
like this is coming off of in my agent meetings,
Hmm.
2 of them, they had already mistaken me for another, wonderfully talented Black woman in my class.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, like
Mm. But you're not really seeing me as an individual.
exactly. So like my ego was bruised because I was like, oh, like I wasn't even, the person you expected to be talking to in the first place.
Wow.
So that really, bruised my ego. And
Yeah.
so after for that to happen, and then like me to get dropped by my manager, I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And of course, you can still get in different rooms without representation,
Right,
but
right.
like you don't have anybody fighting for you. And so
Yeah.
that was my thing. I'm like, I can still go on auditions, and by the grace of God, somebody's looking out for me because I was still getting emails, getting, invitations to
Hmm.
audition. But like when I'm not in the room and when my talent can't speak for itself, nobody's going to bat for me in the room, you know. So
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of us, it's like we have to hit the ground running and really figure things out and really overly
right,
put ourselves out there and then still be good at the end of the day to be like creative and to, not let those things like affect you or your
affect you.
artistry, you know?
Right, right, yeah. And they do affect you.
Yeah.
And like we're not robots. And sometimes having those conversations and like meeting new people and schmoozing and all that, like that's tiring.
And it's like, who wants to do that anyway? It's just,
Exactly.
uh, yeah, it's a lot. And I have noticed a lot of that in this period
Oh,
of,
absolutely.
man, just a lot of even just like networking and getting to experience that for the year before the
Right.
pandemic came and, shut
Okay.
all that down.
Right.
Um,
Right.
a lot of, socially, everything is, so many people. The question is always, what do you do? And
Oh,
it's like,
I hate that question.
networking, um, family, or, just people that you encounter. And I didn't
Right.
realize that that was such a big thing before graduating because I was always a student prior to that.
Right, you can
So
always say that I'm in school,
yeah,
and that's it. People ask, what's your major or whatever, but that was
right.
it.
But
And
it's,
now, what do
man,
you do?
what did you do? It's become triggering at this point.
Mhm.
Especially because I realized with that question, for that person on the other end, not all the time, but a lot of the time, based on that answer, it's kind of like how they'll treat you, you know?
Okay, yep,
And
exactly.
I don't like that.
Not
Like
at
that's
all.
it's
Right. Your worth isn't
wow,
defined by,
what you
what
do.
you do.
Yeah,
Be the highest paid person in the world doesn't mean you're a good person, you know?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
very like social climbers very much
Yeah.
and that's something it's exhausting to interact with people like that too.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the genuineness is kind of, I guess, filtered out to make it to a certain level. And I still try to believe little me over here, thinking, I no matter what, I really do try to stay like optimistic, even through those sucky moments where there's like a lot of people that kind of have though that mindset, like because you'll go through so many negative things in life that for some people it will really taint your personality, it'll taint you as a person, it'll
Right. Oh,
taint your
bitter.
mm-hmm, it'll everything, the way that you create, and sometimes it could be good because look at Beyonce and Lemonade and,
Okay.
and things like
Right?
that. So
Sometimes really good art comes out of that.
yeah, it's one of those things. And even with that, it's just like a comparison game too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Especially with social media.
Yeah.
That's also really tough because, like, people are posting their best selves. You're not seeing the struggles and stuff that
Hmm.
they go through. So I know that, like, at least for me, like, so many people are doing so many wonderful things, whether it be in job, a life step, but you don't
Yeah.
see what goes on behind the scenes, but
Right.
you see that it's happening so fast, right?
Or at least it
You're
seems so. But yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. You don't know, how hard they worked or not or anything,
Yeah.
but that also contributes to where you feel like you should be in life, you know?
I totally agree. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like LinkedIn has become like triggering for me.
Really? See, I don't really be on LinkedIn like that. I always get notifications and stuff, and I'm on it for like work purposes,
Uh-huh.
but
Me,
really? How so?
a little, just because it's like everybody is doing oh so well over there every day.
Oh,
I'm here, which is great. I'm commending the people. I want
right,
everybody to win. I'm not one of those people that are negative, behind my screen, typing
right,
up things. That's not me.
right, right.
But um again, going back to like, I kind of wish like things are good, God is good, especially if this pandemic, we're here to tell all the stories, all the conversations, great.
Mhm.
But you always still want to be at a certain level. You want to still be accomplishing certain things. And sometimes, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, you don't feel like you're doing so, or maybe in the timing that you're supposed to be doing that, right?
Right.
So when I go on there, I'm always seeing people just doing their thing, like they're getting these jobs like at all of the great companies, and things are
Right.
just like
Leveling
working
up.
out. Every post, like they structure, people can do something so simple and they'll be like, and blah 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 blah. I don't even know how to word it, but they just sometimes they be doing the most on LinkedIn. I'm sorry to
Right.
the
Right.
LinkedIn people, but it just be like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel real sometimes. But sometimes being on there for too long, it can make me feel like, dang, like, well, I'm
Mhm.
still sending out these applications and
Right.
things aren't really working. And the way that I would want it to work out.
Mhm. Yeah.
What challenges do you feel like you face kind of like socially in this period?
Um, I definitely feel now that I feel that like I've had more of these conversations with my friends now.
Hmm.
So instead of I know like earlier, when I first graduated, when I started feeling these feelings, I felt like I almost had to like put on a face for my friends,
Mm,
especially because nobody wants to bring the mood down. Nobody,
yeah.
really wants to, you want to have fun. When I saw my friends, I wanted to have fun.
Right, right.
Um, so I feel like that was definitely a challenge for me. Just being open and honest about just where I am in life. And
Mhm.
now that we've had those conversations, um, sometimes we may not want to hang out or like talk to each other all the time.
Right.
Or somebody may be going through something and you just have to let them go through it. And just be supportive and be there whenever they're ready to speak. Um, that's definitely something that we all spoke about and yeah.
Yeah, and it's so important just in those moments. I've realized just that it's okay not to be okay. And
Mhm.
also, it's important to, like, when you're experiencing something, good or bad, to feel your emotions and
Yes.
really just experience it for what it is. And that's okay. Sometimes when we're having those moments where maybe we're crying or maybe we're angry, like, it's all right to just sit in that and just like breathe,
Right.
you
Yep.
know?
Feel your feelings.
Yeah. And also have or try to have like a game plan to pick yourself up, whether that's like therapy or
Right.
just having these conversations. We spoke about just this experience while we were experiencing it like right after post grad. Like, this is
Oh
ghetto.
yeah.
Like,
Yep. Okay.
this
It
is
was like,
this
wait a
is
minute.
I know
Wait a
how it's
minute.
happening for you, but things
But
is not coming
right.
together.
Okay. I was like, it's not adding up. The math is not
Yeah,
mathing.
it's crazy.
I was like, this is adulthood? Out.
Yeah.
Get me out.
But I'm so appreciative for just those conversations and just, that people are having these conversations because I think it's important that people don't feel that they're alone.
Right.
Um, because it can be
Exactly.
very easy to feel that way, you know?
It is. It is very easy to feel that way. Um, yeah, having those real conversations are that's super important.
Again, going back to, I guess, the social aspect, just there's so much things in this transition, just like, you had your college friends and now like they're back to
Mhm.
where they're living and you are where
Right.
you are. If you studied, I mean, if you went to school like somewhere else and you weren't like local, you know,
Right.
and even then, people still transfer. So your people are all over the place.
Yeah.
And now I kind of find it a little challenging to make friends with like other people because it's kind of weird because I find that like the only way like you meet people these days is like if you're working
Right.
or I
Yeah.
realize now like the playground for adults is really the bar, which I love a good
Yeah, that's
drink, but like
true.
the drinks are kind of high, depending on where you go. But
Right. Right.
it's like, dang, like that's the only place that people like congregate, really.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I feel like there are events that happen or whatever, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like bars, I guess it's more of a relaxed place.
Kind
Um,
of, yeah.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like, dang, I don't know. I felt like it was so simple before. Like,
Yep.
and connecting it back to that, what do you do? And I feel like that always, plays a role in how people are. But before it was like, oh, this is my homeboy or homegirl from my class. Like,
Right.
we study
Right.
physics. Like, you know,
It was
and then you
so
kind of just
easy.
build connections that way, and then a friendship, and it just goes from there. But these days it's the what do you do, and then it's like personally you have to check off these things like what are their morals, their beliefs, like does this person
Right.
around me kind of fit where I want to go or like my mindset. So there's just a lot that kind of comes into play.
Absolutely.
Like it's really just there's such a change in your community. Like
Yeah.
I feel like in this stage in life, this new stage, you're truly like building or starting to build your tribe and you're building like these new safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And, other than like your dorm or like that place in the, the, I don't know, cafeteria or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah. You really begin choosing, like, well, I don't even like saying choosing, but I guess it is choosing, who's a part of your life and, building,
The life
building.
that you want and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And it's a lot, I think the reason why this is even a conversation, just, post-grad depression, why isn't it an experience, is because we're facing these struggles that we've never, really encountered before, like ever,
Right.
especially on this level. I know a lot of us are first gen
Generation.
graduates too.
Right.
So it
It's
is,
not really something, like your
yeah,
parents can warn you about or tell you about or yeah.
yeah. They just know that, education is the key and this is the way that you
Right.
should go, to be successful in life in order to make something great of yourself. And,
Right.
you can do that without a degree as well. But
Mhm.
especially these days, it's so hard because you'll even see things for like sanitation, picking up garbage and stuff, and you'll need like an
Right.
associate's degree or just like little things. And
Right.
they require an education, and
And it
it's
won't have to do with
crazy.
anything
Mm-hmm.
you're learning in school, anything.
Yeah. Another thing that's like frustrating with this whole situation, especially in the entertainment space, or just
Mhm.
media, is nepotism and people
Oh,
getting to go
absolutely.
way further ahead. Just, not even being qualified, but just, who they know. Man,
I
that
have
has been,
definitely come across some people where I'm like, "How? What? How?
yeah,
How? How?" Sure, they may be talented, but, like, just as a person?
yeah. Prior to this experience, prior to graduating, I didn't really think anything of it. Like I heard of it like briefly, but nobody really spoke about these things, because I feel like maybe in other generations, everything is from word of mouth to a certain extent, but like I
Yeah.
feel like maybe they were actually looking at resumes. I remember my senior year in my communications class, where it was like our final class. We were turning in our term paper.
Mhm.
Well, actually, no, we were getting it back or something. I know it was something like that. Anyway, the professor was going around just asking, what are you doing after
Mhm.
graduating? What do you have? What are your plans and stuff like that? And a lot of people were like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like people had plans. It's crazy how we all had our plans of like doing things. And I remember this one person in my class, we really didn't talk like that. And he was like, oh, I'm gonna go and work on my father's movie set and his production company, and I'll be like working there. And I was like, oh, like that's cool, like must be nice. And now that I graduate, I'm like, damn, that must be real nice, like real
Real nice.
easy, real
Yes.
just right in
Wow.
my face, like damn, like it's so like that's such a blessing. And I feel like if it works for some people, that's great, but it's really hard. Or when
Right.
you're a graduate, first
Yeah.
gen graduate, truly like building your connections, building everything, and having to like piece everything together. And I feel like that was like my first time kind of encountering,
That.
yeah, like nepotism, and just like
Mhm.
what that looked like. And it
Right.
was so casual. It was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be doing it, like it's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
like,
Which, yeah, I guess, it's not if, you
if
know,
I guess this was planned out for a while, like, you know,
yeah,
no question about it. I'm
y-
gonna do this.
yeah.
What, if anything, like, where did you see yourself, I guess, um, post graduation, like while you were still in school? How did you think, post grad life would be?
Mm, wow. I think for me, I envision myself going into radio. I love music. In high
Mm-hmm.
school, we both went to a performing arts school, and I was a vocal major there. And I just have such a love for music. That's why this podcast, every episode comes with, a playlist, and always got
Yes.
to include music. So I really saw myself being like a radio personality and kind of like branching off and doing other things, because I know they have like certain hours and they get to do like certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't work out that way. But I always wanted to like do things like of talent and kind of have meaningful conversations, really,
Yeah.
and kind of like include music, whether like in interviews and things like that. So for me, I think that was kind of the path that I always wanted. But for me, I just had to like create it myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's this podcast. Okay.
Yes, thank you. And it just kind of happened. Like I was just like, I want to do something. Meaningful conversations is just so important to me. And I always felt like there are these conversations that we need to have. I was always like really passionate about, saying or speaking on things that people don't speak about and stuff like
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
now I feel like a lot more people are doing it, or there's a lot more platforms that are doing that. Like look at Issa Rae, like she's so amazing at
Yeah.
what she's doing and such an inspiration, because she truly just like embraces just imperfection. And
She
I
does.
think, yeah.
Her awkwardness, her
Mm-hmm.
humor, all of that.
And it's so beautiful. And I think we need to definitely do a lot more of that. Because it could be so easy to kind of fall into this idea of what your life should look like, and just this idea of perfection, really. And that's not real.
Absolutely.
That's not a
Not at
real
all.
experience.
Yep. And most of the time it's pressure that we put on ourselves, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of the pressure, just navigating in this world, I feel like, especially with, again, in media, with no clear direction, with no clear direction, there's a lot of projection.
Oh, oh, oh wow. Okay, say it
There,
one more time.
yes, with no clear direction, there's a lot of projection. So there are a lot of people that I've encountered, people that I've networked with,
Hmm.
people, family members to a certain extent, a lot just like projecting, oh, well, especially as a creative, oh, you should, if this doesn't work out and blah, 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 blah. Or, people just
Yep.
kind of like putting these things in your head while you're trying to figure it out. And it's like,
Right.
it's so early. And it's like, oh, but I didn't even get a
Yeah,
chance to pull out my potential to like show the world. And it's like, you really
exactly.
have to hold on to your dreams and just cherish it, um and
Because a
just
lot of people will try to
understand.
get in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, for real, because it can be so easy to do that. There is a lot of that, and it actually makes me sad. And I think that was one of my struggles,
Hmm.
that I had to deal with, or just, I guess, continue to, because
Yeah.
again, there's no clear direction with this thing. So if the people around you haven't seen the visions that you see, it's like,
Right.
are you just dreaming? Like how you have some people that
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I want to do this, but they never take initiative to like do it, and they're just
Exactly.
like, yeah.
It's just a
But
bunch of talk, but there's no, action behind that or
right, right.
no working towards it.
And it's just, it's a fair thing too, that like I've realized. And it comes off as, I guess, to a certain extent it is projecting, but then there's like a protection aspect too. Like I want the best for you, but I'm projecting onto you because,
Absolutely.
yeah.
They don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you, they'd rather see you do something where like 1 + 1 is 2, get a
Yeah,
job, do this, so you have some sort of certainty.
right.
But like, it's not going to make you happy. Who wants to live a life unhappy, where they can't
Yeah,
at least even try, right? To do what they see themselves doing in life.
I think recently I had to like sit myself down and like realize that when we have like these visions of our life, I feel like they're given to us for a reason. Like, and it's not
Mhm.
meant for everybody else to understand. It's not a conversation. It's not a conference call, where it's like, all right, you got the link, you got the link. All right. This is,
Yeah.
it's not, it's destined for you. And I think that just, it happens for a reason, and we're all given a task for a reason, and it's up to us to kind of like hone in, or at least try, do our best,
Right.
or not. And I think that's just up to us. But I had to realize that and kind of be okay with that, and
Yeah.
understand that anything that you do in this world is going to be a fight. Nothing is easy.
Mhm.
Even if you do want to be like, I don't want to say like traditional, but if you're going on that more like certain route, it's still hard. Like, it's not easy to become a lawyer. Like, it's not
Right.
easy to be a doctor. You
Yeah.
know, there are people that work so hard and study so hard and still fail the bar, and they have to like keep going and going. So it is a lot of pressure in everything that you do. But I think it's so important to like breathe and kind of give yourself grace.
For sure. Giving yourself grace is so important. Also, that's where my post-grad depression came from. Like, I
Hmm.
would just not give myself grace. I had these very high expectations of myself,
Mm.
and if I didn't meet that, it was the end of the world. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And at the end of the day, I'll be fine. But in that moment, it was just so, I feel like my feelings were just so magnified. Like everything was
Mm.
so intense, you know?
I
But
feel
giving
that.
yourself grace is important. It's so, so important.
Yeah, and trying to ease up off of that pressure. Let me tell you, when I was about to say when I was younger, but during that period, I was taking on a lot. I was overthinking so bad. Like, I was thinking about just the idea of failing, and
Yeah,
just wanting to establish generational wealth, and wanting to build something for myself and my family, and
right,
wanting it to continue, and do something so beautiful. And I'm like, whoa, 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 you
right.
can't think that far.
Yeah,
um and you can't take all of that on. You just have to do the best that you can and just keep going. And
right.
also, like, with that, just success looks different. And
Mhm.
what success looks like, on TV and for other people, it's all different. So I've recently am just finding it important to, I don't know, have my own definition of success, and
Yes.
which every person has, but it's like,
It's gonna look
mm,
different,
yeah,
for
it's like,
everybody.
what do you want out of this life?
Have you
But
ever had a moment where like you thought you would stray away from what you really wanted or
yes,
oh,
yeah, and it would make me so sad, because it's like, even doing this, and even with the little things that kind of happen, I
mhm,
still have a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't know, because things
yeah,
are really not happening the way that I need it to happen in order for me to like sustain things in my life. Because
mhm,
the finances that you need to like live in this world are real, especially with this pandemic. And I'm not even going to say post
absolutely.
pandemic, because we're still living in it. This
Still in
it's
it.
still, yeah, it's still happening, and you're saying things are so expensive, like gas, food, like everything is getting so expensive.
Right.
Rent, like, you want these certain things in life, and I don't know, it kind of gets hard as a
Mhm.
creative, just trying to do something that you're passionate about. And but even if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, just remaining creative can be hard.
It can be.
Sometimes with just life kind of just happening, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's so hard to find time to like dedicate to making art or,
Yeah.
even like making TikToks. Now that I work a 9
Yeah.
to 5, I feel like the days are getting shorter and shorter.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, I have to remind myself that like the consistent money is great. It is great,
yeah.
but I can't allow myself to lose sight of my goals and what I would like to achieve as
Hmm.
like an actress and comedian.
Right.
And I feel like now that, I spend 9 to 5 working and sometimes even the evening working my other job,
Hmm.
I have no, by the end of the day, I'm tired,
Right.
And on my day off, I don't want to spend, sometimes it takes a day to make a TikTok or,
Hmm.
even to find some sort of creative juice. Like I can't even bring myself to do it just because I'm
Mm,
so exhausted. And
yeah.
so just trying to navigate how, how to work my job, but also focus on my career, which
Right.
is being an actress. And
Right.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't have the answers.
Establishing a career is so, it's a lot, like, and it's
It is.
crazy. It's not cheap to live, you know.
It's not at all,
Um,
especially in New York.
yeah, it is so expensive. Everything's expensive, and it's just so unfortunate that the people at the top are doing so great and then their employees are,
Or
struggling and having to take
right.
on so much to care for their families, themselves, or these student loans. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
oh,
that
don't
is
that would
uh,
that student loans. Miss Sally
crazy.
Mae, let's have come on, we gotta talk. No.
The responsibility is just next level, you know?
It is. It really is.
Hmm.
Student loans, man. I have cried over student
Mm,
loans. I don't know. At this point, I don't know. It's
yeah.
it's, it's wild.
Like they really, I sat and I thought about it. I was like, that is so trifling. They really give you like 6 months to
Right.
secure a job and then like,
And then it's like, okay, pay up.
yeah, like
Come on.
start paying like right away. But it's like
Right.
everybody doesn't have
The
that,
means.
yeah, the means, or like land that opportunity right away. Sometimes like it takes years, and sometimes,
Right.
again, you're just like figuring it out, but it's like you're kind of directed in this path and then you're blindfolded, right? And then like you're just like left standing there.
Right.
Like that's what it feels like. And college expenses are not looking the way that they did like 10, 20 years ago. Now to
Not
be in
at all.
school, it's at
Not
least 30
at
grand a
all.
semester, or some
Yep.
schools even like 70.
Yep.
Even like I guess for the year, maybe semester, depending on where you go. And that is
Right.
ridiculous. Like,
It's a ridiculous amount of money. And then even if you are paying the minimum monthly,
mhm.
you're only paying off like the
The
interest.
interest, right?
You could be paying for 10 years and you'll be left with a higher amount than the loan you first took out, you
Yeah.
know?
For us, kind of taking on all of this is a lot. And I think all of these little factors kind of play into people really, really going through it.
Yes, absolutely. And like so much happening in the world too, right? Like
Yeah.
politics, all that. All
Affected by everything. Like
yeah.
everything is affecting us. The global climate.
Change. Yeah, it's these new added fears of the unknown, pressures.
It's
Yeah,
just a lot. What was supposed to be like, I guess, a phase, a transitional phase of us feeling, this feeling of just uncertainty. It's like now
mhm,
now the world reflects that same uncertainty,
exactly.
So it's
Especially in
like,
the pandemic. Yep.
yeah, where it's like, all right, maybe we were having our struggles, finding work and, really securing that main, kind of gig. But now it's like the world is having these issues, and now it's like it's
Right.
even more of a fight because now you have these people that maybe they've been at their job for like 30 years or whatever the case is, and
Mhm.
now they're just laid off and having to start all over or having to
Right.
like navigate again, which is kind of making it more challenging for us, you
Yeah, because
know?
the uncertainty of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if you could have had like a job for years, worked at it, and then a global pandemic happens.
Yeah.
And what happens after that when you're no longer receiving the income that you used to receive, when, things are not promised?
Yeah.
Nothing is promised.
It's scary. It's like, how do we really navigate in this? But again, I think it's so important to, I don't know, do our best, like in this experience, and just really do the best that we can do. And I think the first step in all of this is acknowledging that this is even an issue, raising
Right.
more awareness to, you know, this whole conversation,
Yeah.
letting people that are in college know that this is a real thing. So there isn't a way to prepare yourself, but like
Right.
take some notes, do some practice or some side hustles,
Mhm.
something,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Set
it's real
yourself
out
up
here.
with some tools, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's breathing, taking a day, having a friend you can always talk to, like some sort of, support system, you know,
Yeah,
is necessary. Cause I'm like, if I don't know how I would have dealt if I went through that, alone.
right. So how do you feel that you've kind of like grown since graduating? What are some things that you feel like you've learned?
Oh, I feel like I've learned patience and I'm still learning patience. Learning that things can't happen right now. Talking to someone. I have a therapist. I highly
Yes.
suggest you don't even have to have, just being able to talk somebody consistently
Mm-hmm.
um has helped so much, especially in like giving me tools on how do I, just move forward if I'm not having an okay day.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that now um I handle things a
Good,
lot
good.
better, especially rejection. I feel like that was
Yes.
the
Oh
main
my
thing
God.
contributing to that like
Yeah.
post grad, But yeah, now I feel like I'm handling rejection so much better.
Good, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
What about
is,
you?
oh, rejection. That is the theme of the story.
Oh, look.
It.
Okay. Okay. Because I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Whoa. And the way like these jobs and these people take so long to connect with you or to,
Mm-hmm.
give you updates on like your job application or your audition, it's a lot. Like I remember hearing back from a job, maybe like I've heard back from jobs like a year later, four
Uh-huh.
years later, 6 months later.
Right.
Like it's crazy. It's like
Yeah.
when you're job hunting, you're looking for now, not like what?
Not
So
again.
based on, I guess, your journey, what advice would you give to somebody who is just kind of graduated and is
Mhm.
navigating life, or maybe they're about to graduate and they're hopefully not going through this process, but,
Right, right.
experiencing the real world?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I would say take this time to, even learn more about yourself.
Hmm.
I feel like so much of we're influenced a lot by I guess what happens in school or the people that you meet in school and things like that. But now if you do have free time, do find things that make you happy, that give you joy, that bring joy into your life. Uh discover things you like, don't like. Um what else? I will say don't um take life too seriously.
Mm,
Um Not
Yeah.
things may not happen right away or within the timeline that you expect them to, and that is okay. It is okay.
For real. I love that. Tia, thank you so much for being a part of today's show.
Thank
Please
you.
let the people know where they can find you. And yeah, and if there's any last thing that you want to say, definitely go for it.
Oh, thank you so much, Jasawn, for having me. Number one, I feel like this conversation,
Of
just
course.
having this conversation openly, was so healing and really great, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, oh, my socials.
Yes.
You can follow me on TikTok at T Cassmira, Tcassmira. I post a lot and mostly on TikTok. You can follow me on Instagram at Cassmira. I don't really post on Instagram that much anymore. But yeah.
Yes. Well, we will tag everything below. And guys, please check Tia out on TikTok because I feel like I forgot to mention, like, you're really doing your thing on TikTok. Like,
Oh, thank you.
congratulations. Like,
Thank you.
Tia, you are doing it. She is, man, she is doing her thing. You guys are gonna really, really enjoy it. Like, I stay laughing
Yes,
from
that's why I
the,
have laugh, you
yes,
know?
the duets, it is great. Just such a great time. Impersonations. You're creating storylines of the people on there.
Okay.
Like,
Yes. Yep. See, you gotta do it for create things for yourself, you know?
yes, yes, truly. And that's the magic in it. Welcome to Poppin' Topics. If you're new, this is the segment where we talk about the latest going on. Whether it's your favorite celebrities, that trending topic on Twitter, the viral clip that you can't get out of your head, or that movie that you have to watch because everybody's seeing it and they might spoil the movie. Speaking of things that you have to see, this past week I went to my first Broadway show, you guys, and I saw Thoughts of a Colored Man, and it was so good. The show was it was so it was really really nice. It was just a different, I don't know, just like storyline, thoughts and experiences of a black man infused with just spoken word and humor and so much more. It felt like a love letter to black men, and I really think it's a total must see. So if you are in the New York City area, I think you should definitely go and check it out. Like, it's a very real play, but it's a feel good play at the same time. And as I said, I really enjoyed it. But anyhow, it is time for poppin' topics. So this week, Tammy Roman stopped by the Real and they asked her about her surrogacy plans with her husband Reggie. So, a little backstory: he's an only child and wants to have children to, carry on his legacy. He's 34 and Tammy's 51, so really for her it's unsafe for her to carry and even consider going through that process. Right now she's acting, and if you see her, like, she's really doing her thing, not like she wasn't before, but it's kind of like her prime in a sense, and she kind of spoke on that. So boom, she's talking with the ladies of the Real, and she revealed that she's open to her and her husband Reggie, taking a break so he can have a child with someone else and continue, like, with Tammy, in a blended family dynamic where there's co-parenting involved going forward. And I'm shocked by this, but I totally understand. She said that Reggie told her that, that wouldn't work for him because he truly loves her, and if that's not in God's plan for him to have a child with her, then maybe he's not supposed to have a child at all. And wow, what a beautiful response, number one. Um, and for her, I feel like this is the ultimate example of, I guess, considering your partner's needs too. And that can be like really hard to do when you love the person. Lots of thought probably had to go into that because you're not being selfish. Like, if you truly love someone, you have to, like, allow them to get what they want, and or what they need really. And just, you can't force a person into making a choice like that, especially because if it's a choice that they really didn't want to make, they'll end up like resenting you. So you don't want that, right? So I think just being transparent is so important. Transparency is so, so, so important. But that children and co-parenting dynamic can be complicated. Um, Man, so that's a lot. How do you guys feel about this? Is this something that you would consider or think about considering if you had a partner who wanted to have kids and you were the one that didn't want to because of things going on in your life, or maybe you couldn't handle it, or maybe you weren't ready for it? Um, Let us know on Twitter and Instagram at the JWord underscore how you would handle something like that. That is a big decision, and a lot of people have been making a lot of different comments on it, agreeing, disagreeing, thinking that she's crazy. So sound off and let us know what you think about that. Meghan Markle is going to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show. They showed a preview, and in the sneak peek, she talks about sneaking out of the house with Prince Harry before the relationship went public. Harry went to visit her in Toronto for a Halloween party around like 2016 or 2016. And literally, that's like the perfect event. Halloween, really best. So they took over the town in their disguises, and I just love that for them. And I think their whole situation is just the perfect example of, I guess, things just being better left off in private rather than public. I'm still like saddened by all of the things that we found out, but kind of hinted on in the Oprah interview. It's so crazy. In other news, Adele's new album comes out today. She's had an interview with Oprah actually, and I gotta watch it myself. And the performances, I heard it was really good. I'm an Adele fan, and I'm excited to listen after the show. But before we do that, and we end the show, and I'm all listening to Adele, let me introduce you to Ask J, where I answer you guys' questions. So let's jump right in. So the first one comes from Bianca from Brooklyn. Bianca says, "How do you know? How did you know when you were going through post-grad depression?" Um, for me, I kind of felt like the waves, like something just didn't feel right for me, right? Um, Something just kind of felt off. Like I felt like I was always like still like doing my thing and still sending out these applications, but there were just a lot of moments of like sadness, like, oh, like am I not doing this right? Did I not prepare myself properly? Like where did I go wrong? And we talked about that so much in this episode, just a lot of, self-blaming, um, but also just the importance of, I guess, catching yourself and figuring that out. But for me, it was just like a series of kind of like dark moments and feeling like people didn't understand where I was coming from, or what I was kind of like experiencing. So I decided to, I guess, use the Googler and just, I don't know, Google, like, is this a common thing? And really, again, just having conversations with the people around me, friends, just all checking in, like, this isn't me just going through this. This is all of us kind of figuring it out. And I think building some sort of community or just having those conversations made me feel a little bit better. Like it didn't make everything go away because sometimes, like every day, you're not gonna feel like on 10. That would be beautiful, but it's not a real thing. So yeah, I think that was really the moment. But to answer your question, that is, I guess, how I kind of realized I was going through that. Having conversations with my friends and just like in those moments where I was like sitting down with my emotions and I don't know, piecing everything together. The second question comes from, oh, it's anonymous. And it says, "Hi, Jasawn." It says, "Hi, Jason. I graduated during the pandemic class of 2020. And even though I graduated during this crazy time, my family and the people around me keep asking me what are my plans And although I knew or had some idea, sometimes, most of the time, I don't have a clue and it's overwhelming. What do I do? As we said earlier, just, well, first off, like, pat on the back to you because you were in the class of just missing out on so many experiences. You still fought and did your thing and you worked really, really hard and you pushed through and you got your degree. So you need to give yourself all of the praise. That is hard. College is hard without anything. So for you to do that in the midst of a pandemic, not knowing what this thing looked like, all of these things happening, and just uncertainty of this whole thing, shout out to you. You are amazing for doing your thing and pushing through and finishing. And regarding like your family and the people around you, I think you just have to find a way to like, I don't know, block them out. And that can be like really hard, but just, I don't know, stand your ground and just let it be known that you're doing your best. And I don't know, sometimes you just got to tell them something too. Just, I don't know, make something up if you can. Um I guess so they stop bothering you. Just like kind of have that general answer and just use it. But also give yourself grace because you did it and you're amazing. And whatever you want to do is going to happen for you regardless. Just, continue to put the work in. And in those moments of being sad or in those moments of, again, not feeling on 10, that's okay. That's normal. But just like have a game plan of how do I get out of this? What do I do next? Have, something going. So yeah, I guess that's my advice, and I hope that it helps, and I hope that this episode is helpful for you too. I hope that you're able to take a lot of tips. Yeah. Our last question is anonymous as well. It says, "Hey Jay, I'm currently in my junior year of college studying political science, and I notice when I come home, my siblings tend to bring up constantly me being in college because I'm the first of us to go to college, and that everything, what does it say? Everything is said in like a sarcastic way. For example, me and my brother, we get into a lot of arguments and they tend to get heated. And he'll say things like, you think you know everything because you're in college, and I'm over it. And Thanksgiving is about to come. Jasawn, what do I do? That is a lot. And your brother is definitely projecting, and that's definitely just an insecurity on his end. And I think that he's just seeing you and kind of wishing that he went to college and had that experience, and he's kind of like projecting on you and he's just kind of insecure. But that's not your problem. That's not for you to take on. That can be frustrating because it's like college doesn't really, like, yeah, college like shapes people and stuff like that, but it doesn't determine if you are a smart individual or not. There are people that have graduated and they don't know anything. um People graduate and they're not smart all the time, they don't have sense. So not saying that that's you, that's not your case, but I'm just saying that doesn't going to college does not determine one's level of like where they're at or if they're going to be successful. There are plenty of people who do not have a degree that are doing their thing and that they're thriving. Same as people that do have their degree, right? So again, I think that he's just being insecure and he's projecting on you, and that's annoying. So I would say not even take that on. I would try to project. I mean, I would try to project. I would try to protect my energy as much as I could, and your peace is important. So try to do that, and if you're surrounded by that a lot, try to like kind of hone in and center yourself and meditate and just always just check into the person that you are. And yeah, the holidays are coming. I can't. Just pick your battles. Everything doesn't have to be an argument. Sometimes you just gotta let things fly. And yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it'll be okay. That's all we have for today's Ask J. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. I posted asking, questions on the topic a couple of weeks ago, so stay on the lookout. And I'll possibly have an email for you guys to ask more questions, or maybe like a page or something like that for your questions. So, and also, I guess for now, you guys can send DMs for any questions that you want answered on the show, and we can go from there. But yeah, that's all we have for today's show. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen and just for being a part of this beautiful journey. J Word fam, I love you guys. And make sure you guys share the episode with people that you feel are going to resonate with it. And yeah, also special thanks to Tia for being a part of the show and for being so open with her story and all of that. So I really hope that you guys are able to take something from this episode. Today we talked about post-grad depression, what that looked like, what it feels like, personal experiences, how to get through it, and how to kind of take care of yourself while going through it. Also, you guys look out for the playlist that's dropping with the episode. So each episode, I always try, well, now, each episode there is a playlist on Spotify, and it has music that's relating to what we talked about and just, new heat. Just that's, man, it's a great time. So I hope that you guys like it when you guys check it out and can really vibe with the music. And I put you onto some, new songs because I be knowing. I feel like I have a good little selection. So, definitely check that out. Tia threw some songs in there too, so it's a great time. So again, I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in to the J Word podcast. And in the words of Joseph Campbell, we have to let go of the life we plan to accept the one that is waiting for us.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the J Word Podcast. To keep up with the latest, follow the J Word on Twitter and Instagram at the J Word _. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review.